Hello, I'm Garland Colson from PresentationPoint, and today we're doing an interview with PowerPoint MVP and an expert and speaker and trainer and a best-selling author on PowerPoint, Ellen Finkelstein. Ellen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Garland. Thanks for having me.
So Ellen, I know I've kind of introduced you already, but can you just give our viewers a brief 30-second introduction to what you do?
Sure. I basically train people. So I train either individuals who need to do a presentation or who want to learn how to present, or sometimes teams, whatever it is. But I train presenters to communicate more clearly and persuasively and powerfully. And a lot of that does not have to do with PowerPoint necessarily. Sometimes we go over the content in this organization, but a lot of it does have to do with PowerPoint and the slides. And I would say that I sort of specialize in showing non-designers how to design clear slides that actually communicate.
Yeah, because not all of us have a designer in our workplace or can afford to hire a designer every time we need to do a PowerPoint slide. So it's important that we learn to create clear ones ourselves. So,
absolutely.
So how long have you been using PowerPoint?
I think it's since 1995. That was when I was invited to write some questions or answers from, it was an educational publisher from McGraw-Hill, I think it was, and they gave me the teacher's manual, and so that taught me everything I needed to know about PowerPoint. So I wrote a teacher's, they gave me the course, and then I wrote a teacher's manual, some tests. So I think something like 1995. It was a long time ago.
Wow, very experienced. So like over 20 years or more experience. That's
oh my gosh.
So, so in addition to helping people learn to use PowerPoint better and to do better presentations, how else do you use PowerPoint in your business?
Well, I use it for myself. I create my own slides. For example, I do sales presentations for selling my programs, and I do training presentations when people buy them. So I do a lot of my own presentations as well, both live, but mostly online. Most of what I do is online webinars.
Yeah, and we've started to use PowerPoint a lot more for our online sales presentations as well, and it works really well for that. So what do you love about PowerPoint?
Well, I really love that I can do almost anything with it. So it's very full-featured, and it's really pretty solid there. So I no matter what I want to do, I can do it. And it's flexible enough for me to use different styles or whatever it is, I can pretty much do it. I didn't mention this, but I actually use PowerPoint as a design, as a marketing, to create graphics. In fact, I have a course called PowerPoint for Marketing Graphics. So when I want to put up a blog post and I need to put up an image and I need to crop it or whatever, I just always automatically go to PowerPoint. So I love that it really has all of those graphic tools as well, so that I can really create nice slides or graphics or whatever it is. Just a new thing, it's not so much about PowerPoint as a program, but I really like the new subscription model. So that's called Office 365. Right. And the thing that's so different about it, the reason I like it, is because in the past, you know, there was PowerPoint 2003 and then 2007. It's like 4 years before you could get new features. And then, 2010, another 3, so on like that. And now they're putting out new features every month. That is like crazy. And I don't know how they do it. Obviously, they have everybody in the world working 24 hours a day to do it, but compared to what they used to. But it's really nice that they're putting so much attention on it and coming up with so many new features all the time.
Yeah, I use Office 365 as well, and I like that I've always got the newest version of PowerPoint. And as you say, when they add new features, it's right away. And it was always annoying to have to go and shell out, hundreds of dollars more to get the newest version, and having one monthly fee where I get all the Office suite just makes a lot of sense for me. So,
yeah.
So what's missing on PowerPoint? What would you like to see PowerPoint do that it can't do for you right now?
I think that by now there's so many features that the things I want are like little things. So for example, you can customize the fonts and you can customize the colors, but you can't customize what's called effects. So if I would want to create effects that shapes that don't have an outline, but by default or something like that. You can't do that. And so I think that's frustrating. And it's there, so it's just somehow they never got to the customization part of it, that you can choose from some effects, but you can't create your own.
Right,
so that's one thing. I think that, PowerPoint used to have its own image library, and then they got rid of it. And they apparently did this for legal reasons, and they were legitimate reasons. And there are now some add-ins that you can use to get images within PowerPoint. But I would love the ability to have sort of like tag-based. So like it kind of sees what my text is, and it looks at the words and suggests images. Maybe an add-in has to do that. And one of the things that frustrates me, I use SmartArt a lot. So I'm turning bullet points into SmartArt. And the ones that I use aren't necessarily at the top of the list when you click change to, convert to SmartArt. So then I have to click more SmartArt and, go through the list. And I would love most frequently used or last used right at the top.
Or favorites.
Yes, wouldn't that save you a lot of time?
Yeah, and those are really great points. And I know the image search is often my longest part of my presentation. Like I actually do my presentations entirely in raw text first. I don't even look for pictures until later, because I find you can get so caught up in the picture search that you forget your presentation. So I think that has a big impact. And it's interesting too, you were mentioning before about using PowerPoint for marketing graphics. Now I suck at graphic design, so I really graphic design, but I find I'll use PowerPoint to do mock-ups and then pass it to
absolutely
designer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just did that. A few days ago. I was doing some report and I mocked it all up in PowerPoint and gave it to Fiverr. Exactly. Yep.
So what impact does teaching and consulting on PowerPoint, what impact has that had on your own presentation and PowerPoint skills?
Well, I'm faster than I used to be, and I've developed, I think it's a repertoire of slide layouts that I can always apply quickly. So, and I do makeovers for clients. I'm working with a client now, and he's does a kind of holistic health kind of thing. And, I can go through slides really quickly and make them look good very fast. And part of the way of doing that is that having a repertoire, some layouts, and not layouts in the technical sense of PowerPoint, but some formats or structures of slides that I know I can always go to. So I think that's really helped. That I can always pretty much always make a good slide.
Great. So what's the worst mistake you see people make with PowerPoint?
Well, I think we all know that. Because there was this one big mistake. It's the elephant in the room where we see it all the time. And that is, it's called Death by PowerPoint. And it basically what it is making all text slides, putting a lot of text on the slides, and then when you deliver it, reading the slides.
Right.
So it's not only a matter of how the slide looks, but it's almost like thinking in outlines. So you remember when we were in 6th grade and we learned how to do Roman numeral 1 and then a thing, and then we did capital A. It's like but when we speak, we shouldn't be speaking in outlines. We should be speaking in concepts like that. And so basically when you have all this text on the slide, people just go and read it. And I've actually tested this. I did this with a group of college professors, and I created a slide like this, and I went through it and I said, so how did you take in the information? And most people read ahead of you. Yes. And so if they're reading ahead of you, they're not only are they not listening to you because they're trying to understand what they're reading, but they find your voice annoying. And this is just death for the presenter. It's like, shut up already, let me read. And then when they finish reading, because people can read faster than you can speak, then they turn their attention to the speaker and hear that the speaker is saying stuff they've already read. So then again, they're going to turn their attention away from the speaker. So this whole thing of thinking that what you say needs to go on the slide is really wrong. It's just like a whole wrong concept.
I understand that, and that's one of the reasons why I don't give my presentation out ahead of time. I don't give the slides out ahead of time. I don't use my slides even as a handout for that reason, because most of my presentations actually don't make any sense without the speaker, because they're just a point, a graphic to illustrate like a metaphor. Like it's not meant to be a handout or something like that. So, right. So what additional mistakes do you see people make with PowerPoint?
Well, let's see, what additional mistakes? Oh, I know. And for some reason, I see this all the time. People complain that PowerPoint's default is to have the title and then bullet points below it. But yet, for some reason, people tend to go to the blank layout and start putting text boxes all over the place. And while this is okay for a designer who knows how to lay out slides, it's not good for the rest of us who are not designers. And so just use the layouts. If you want to have a point, some one point and an image on it, then use title only. And then you just put the title there and you put the image on it. But when people use text boxes, they jump from slide to slide. There's no consistency. Nothing is setting it up for it to look organized and clear. So I think not using the layouts is a problem that I see with my clients all the time.
And it would make it tougher to, say, apply smart art to the bullet points as an example. Like, I can see that. I mean, I use that occasionally, but I don't think I overuse it. It's more when I want just a single slide that might be dramatic. I might do that. But for the most part, yes, I still use the layout.
I mean, I use text boxes in certain ways. For example, to label an image, if it's a picture of a person and I want to have a label below it saying who the person is. Or sometimes, rather than, if I have a shape, if it's hard for me to put the text on top of the shape exactly where I want it, I'll put a text box on top of it, but just not for all of your text, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So what is something people could do with PowerPoint that most people don't know you can do with it?
Okay, so let's see what's something that you could do with PowerPoint that most people aren't aware of. I think that there are a bunch of people who, some people know this, that people don't realize that you can turn it into a video.
Ah, right.
And how to do that. So you can create really nice videos with PowerPoint. And there are various ways of doing it. But in general, you would probably use more animation because you're turning it into a video. And then you create some transition between the slide and you set up slide timings. You might narrate it or add music to it. And then when you put that all together, you can export it to a video and create a really nice video with it.
Great. And especially with the popularity of things like YouTube, being able to easily create videos using PowerPoint is quite useful.
Yep.
So what would be a top tip you would have for people wanting to create better PowerPoints?
So I think my top tip is, and this has nothing to do with PowerPoint actually, is to focus on your audience's needs for content, and the design should also focus on what's easy for them to take in, and the delivery should focus on being interactive with the audience and asking them questions. And so I think in general with presenting, that's a big tip, is to focus on the audience. And I've had the experience, it's not always easy to do that. So I've had this experience a couple of times of misreading the audience in advance because it was like a conference and I would come in and it wouldn't go very well because I didn't really understand the audience. It wasn't easy to do that, but I think by asking questions as you go along, and making adjustments is one way of doing that. So I think that's my top tip.
Yeah, and that's really important, is knowing the audience, because make sure the examples, the pictures, the graphics, the message all matches what the audience is looking for. So any additional PowerPoint tip you might be able to share?
Well, we were talking about putting a lot of text on it, that's a bad thing to do. So I think that I have something that I call the tell and show method. And it's basically you tell the point. And there's some research. This is research from Michael Alley, and he did it in a college setting where he was trying to teach students something and then tested to see how much they understood and remembered. But basically, you put a point on the slide, and then you show the point with some kind of graphic. And in his case, he was in Penn State Engineering School. He was showing mechanical things, but whatever it is, it could be a diagram or a photo or a map or whatever it is, somehow to show the point. And so I think that, that's an important way to do it. Now, sometimes we need more text than that. Sometimes it happens. And I think that's especially true in training as opposed to other types of presentations that are meant to be more either persuasive or inspirational. And so then I would say the basic guideline is try to create a presentation with no bullet points, those little dots. And you can turn it into smart art. We talked about that. There's a new phrase that I heard once, icons are the new bullets. And so
Right.
you can use icons, and they're very trendy right now. They're really in. And in fact, PowerPoint's designer feature, which opens up as the design pane at the right, will now, in Office 365, if you have it, will now actually turn bullet points into icons based on the terms that the words that you have. It's not always that accurate, but that's really cool. So I think the goal would be to try to create slides with no bullets.
Great. And you gave, one sort of great general tip about better presenting, that, to know your audience and make sure that your message and your graphics match that. So can you provide another tip on presenting that you might like to share?
Well, using this tell and show method, is definitely one of them. So just have this idea that each point, you have one point on the slide, you tell the point, you show the point, you tell the point, you show the point. And I have a little cute system for choosing the right image. And this mostly deals with photographs, but not necessarily. So I call it the BARE system, B-A-R-E. So B is big,
Mm-hmm.
A is attention getting,
Right.
R is relevant, and E is emotional.
Nice.
So, so I use an example of a slide. It's better when you see it, but so of a slide that we should reach out to our team members to work with them. That would be the point of the slide. So reach out to your team members. And so you could create a little thing with two circles that overlap and make it small. So that would be your first effort. And the first thing you could do is to just make that big. So it's two overlapping. Each one represents a person. So they reach out to each other. So you can make it big. But then it's not very interesting, or what I call attention getting, or arresting is another A word that you could use there. So then I have a second picture, which is kind of a funny picture, but it's a picture of a pregnant woman with her stomach sticking out, and a man is reaching out to touch the baby. So it's big, it's arresting, but it's not relevant. Right. You don't really want to tell people to be going out and touching people's bellies. So it's not relevant to the meaning of that. So then I change it to, okay, I have an overhead picture of people working together at a table. And because it's from the top, it's an unusual picture. It's big, it's attention getting, it's relevant, but it's not very emotional. So then I finally come to a fourth image where I show a picture of, how companies sometimes take their employees out to a team building exercise kind of thing off-site. So it's a picture of something like that. And you have these people on top of a wall, and they're trying to get their team members they're competing against each other to climb up the wall, and they're reaching out, come on, you can do it, that kind of thing. And so it's really emotional. They're reaching out literally to try to get grab the hand of their team member to bring them up. So that's the point of it. And it's big, and it's arresting, and it's relevant, and it's emotional. So when you find a picture like that, you're spot on.
Wow. That's fantastic. Do you have an article like that on your blog? You should.
I have a blog post
Good.
on it.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. We should definitely have a read, but that's a really good point. So is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers today?
So I think that's basically it. I think that one of the main points, I've shared some points that aren't about PowerPoint, that are more about knowing the audience and so on like that. And from the point of view of delivery, I want to say that the best way to become a good speaker is to practice and videotape yourself and then watch the video. And some people have a hard time with this. It's a really kind of scary kind of thing. But if you're hesitant to go out there and speak, then just you have to practice. When I don't consider myself a good speaker from the technical point of view. I pause, I say, I can't think of what I want to say next. And it's hard for me to change my brain and make the words come faster to my brain. So there are always these pauses. And so I know that when I want to create a video, let's say, that's going to be for my website, I'm going to have to do it 10 times before I'm going to get those 3 sentences out without weird pauses in them or something like that. So the same thing, you don't have to be a fluent speaker, but you just have to be lively and have a good points, be saying something valuable. And eventually, when you watch yourself and you record yourself and you do it again and again, you become comfortable with it. And as long as, again, you have something good to say and you're interested in, you're enthusiastic about it, you'll be a good enough speaker.
Yeah, and I know as a professional speaker myself, I run into this lots. Of course, we all hate to hear our own voices recorded because they never sound as good as we think they should once they're recorded. They just don't sound the same anymore.
Right.
But I know in one case, I was watching a video online recently, and the person made all the common mistakes, but she was so engaging, she was so authentic, she was so passionate that I found myself just thoroughly enjoying the presentation, and my speaker, critiquing hat just went off. Yeah, good
absolutely.
Stuff.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been fantastic, Ellen. There's been just a ton of great information that you shared here. Where could people go to connect with you further?
People can go to ellenfinkelstein.com. And you said you'd put a link below because not everybody can spell that name. And I will send you also the link to that specific blog post about the BEAR method of choosing the right image.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us today, Ellen. And, it was great to have you, and what a wonderful guest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I enjoyed it as well.